Let the BLEXIT revolution begin. I just got thinking about some things, everyone, that Kanye West and Red Pill Black or Candace Owens, this revolution they started is real, it's authentic. There's a new generation that's risen up, and it's a generation that's more educated and more informed. And we're not being led astray any longer by people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. We are real Americans, and we really love our freedom. You know, when you look at the media and you see celebrities all the time, I mean, I grew up with this. I grew up listening to those who were talking about like P. Diddy, Rock the Vote, and all these actors and actresses saying that black people, you must vote Democrat. They always tell us this when it's the same party that has been butchering our young people in the streets. It's that party that has been giving us failing schools for generations and decades and decades. And it comes down to it that you find out that the Democrat Party is not really interested in solving problems. They're more interested in creating problems than using those problems to control people, whether you be black or white. You just look at it surface level, and you see how petty they are. So petty. They don't want to talk about issues because they think that their voters don't have anything going between their skulls, between their ears. I'm asking them questions, and even many of the people who vote Democrat, they don't like to talk about issues. They like to talk about, oh, that person is racist. Republicans are racist. How it can that possibly be when you Democrats are the only ones that talk about race all the time? I've come to realize that without the manufacturing of racial division, the Democrat Party would lose most elections at this point because everything seems to be about race. Everything. And that's only because they are the party of racism. They're the party of the Ku Klux Klan. So they're used to this. It's in their blood, it's in their DNA. Critical race theory they teach in schools, a white privilege. It's not an accident that that young man, the white guy who was on with J.B. Pritzker's campaign, went black-faced it because he thinks he's better than blacks. They just do this because they think that they're superior, because you've actually taught them white privilege. So not only are you trying to get blacks to think that whites are the privileged class, but you want whites to think that they're privileged as well. You're basically teaching them to be racist. You Democrat professors, you liberal professors, everything you do is backfiring. Why don't you just be honest and live with principles? Maybe you need to go back to biblical principles because you have some kind of standards, but your standards are chaotic. They're hypocritical. What's good for other people, what's good for you is different for other people. Yeah, and basically you're creating this division. So we're tired of it, and we're enjoying this new renaissance and this Brexit, blacks exiting the Democrat Party. We are free. And we'll vote how we want to vote. We'll vote independently, but we're voting for solutions. We're voting for the right candidate. We're no longer dependent on the Democrat Party. Don't you understand? MSNBC, CNN, we are free from you. We can think independently. Don't try to get us to be racially divided the last minute or throughout the years and stuff. You think that's going to get our vote? I've heard the spiel every single election time since 1992, when Bill Clinton came to power, when his regime came to power. And the thing about Bill Clinton is that there are pictures of Bill Clinton, you all can find them, where he's hugging a woman, a white woman who's black-faced it. You have pictures of Hillary Clinton, and she's kissing the face of the dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. And you think that we're stupid. You think that we forgot that the Democrat Party created the Ku Klux Klan, and we look at the results of your policies, and they have failed. And then we realize that, hey, when we get a job, we pay taxes. And when you pay taxes, that means you have a certain amount of your income going out to somewhere. The problem is you overspend too much, and you don't account for your spending. And then we're paying money to fund all of these programs that were doomed to fail. We are tired of it. And we are thankful that we can think for ourselves, and we don't have to be dependent on the Democrat Party. We can vote Republican, Independent, or whoever we want to vote for. But the point is that we are not bound to the Democrat Party. And now that you've decided, you realize that more blacks are voting either Republican or independently, or they're really thinking about who they're voting for. Now, what do you Democrats do? You try to bring illegal immigration, and you bring in Latinos who don't know the Constitution, who don't know the freedoms we have and what it took to make us free. And you bring them in out of these socialist countries. You fill and you open the borders to replace the black community with a new minority class, a new dependency class, new people who will be on the doles to be used and manipulated to increase your census rolls in your state so you have more representative power, just like you did the African American people during the days of slavery. And that's why Frederick Douglass said the reason why they had the 3/5 clause was because here you have all these African American or Africans who are slaves who weren't allowed to vote, but to use their bodies, their bodies that were being burdened by you wanted them to work for you all the time, and then you use their bodies to increase your census rolls so you have more representative power in the South. That's how you use people. The Democrat Party has always been a part of usury and theft, and they've never stopped doing it. They're doing it now to Latinos. They're doing it in California. They say, well, who's going to pick our crops? Who's going to take care of our babies? Who's going to do this for us? Because you're an elitist class. Don't you understand? You are the party of the rich. And we all see this. Every American sees it. And we're tired of it now. And now it's so obvious. I hear Democrat politicians talking about, well, who's going to pick these crops for us? Who's going to do the jobs that we don't want to do? Yeah, that's right. You had jobs for black people that you didn't want to do too, picking cotton, right? Same mentality, young people. This is why you're free. You're freer than some in my generation, young people. If you're in high school, you don't have to vote Democrat. Don't buy into the peer pressure of your teachers who are closet racists and the celebrities who are multimillionaires, rich as can be, and they tell you how to vote. Don't let them manipulate you. You stand on your principles. You say, I have a mind to want solutions. And I'm going to be a thinking person. I'm going to be an informed voter. I'm going to be an informed citizen who's united with other informed citizens. And that's the purpose of our channel, to be informed citizens united together. Whether you be black or white, whether you're Latino or Asian or whatever mixture of race you are, we are all Americans, and we're all in the same boat now. Stop the racial division. I mean, it's going to backfire against the Democrat Party because it's ironically been the black people that has kept the Democrat Party afloat, just like we kept the racist South afloat by picking their cotton, picking their crops. The Democrat Party has got us into systems of dependency where that they're dependent on us to hold them up. The very people that are pushing abortion down our streets, the very people who are giving us societies of crime and high taxes, usury, theft, and socialism, they now want our vote in 2018 and beyond. And I tell you the truth, it's time to BLEXIT. BLEXIT, black people exit the Democrat Party. Vote how you wish to vote, but vote based on knowledge. Don't vote based on tradition. It's like based on, if you're going to vote based on tradition, you're not doing yourself any favors, because you're not solving real problems, because you don't know what the problems are. You're just blaming on the other side. It's tradition. But when you realize that the Democrat Party is causing you to have smaller paychecks because of the high taxes, that the Democrat Party is causing you to pay higher property taxes, and they made things difficult for you after the bailout because they were passed out loans, bad loans to many of us just to get our vote, and they could have done it differently. Instead of giving us job economic freedom, they gave us free money, and that caused the banks to fail and everything else. So everything has been a gimmick for election times. And now It's run out. They've run out of all kind of ideas. They've run out of solutions. Now they've just resorted to use tactics of, you got this guy who was a anti-Trump person. He hated Trump, and he was the guy who attacked that synagogue, killing 11 Jewish people. You found that out. You find out that the very shooters, the mass shooters that have killed so many Americans, they were liberal Democrats because they were wanting to push socialism. They want to push gun control. So how do they do that? They call it, as Pelosi said, those who die in the process of our gaining power are just mere collateral damage. You see, if you really think about it, Democrats are acting as fascists, just like Hitler did. Hitler wanted gun control. Hitler would never have wanted the Second Amendment for their country because he believes all power should go in the state. He didn't trust it to anybody. He didn't believe in freedom like our Constitution awards us with. So you have Hitler, you have Mussolini, every socialist party, every socialist group, they want to disarm the people. They want to divide and conquer the people. They want to give people less money, make them more penniless, and make them poorer, and make them more divided so they're easy to control. This is the Democrat Party today. They are the party of tyranny. They are the party of socialism. In fact, many of the Democrat leaders and even the media, way back in the day of Hitler, were praising Hitler. We're saying how good Hitler was and everything. But meanwhile, we have these people today called Democrats. They're pushing the same socialism, the same policies. In fact, if you read Mein Kampf, this was actually done. Look it up yourselves. Mein Kampf was literally read in the streets of Chicago, and all of these people were cheering. These young college students were cheering Mein Kampf in English, and they had no idea that that was Hitler's writings, that came from Adolf Hitler themselves. That's how close the Democrat Party is to the party of Hitler and fascism. But they typically are what you would call international fascists, kind of like how Stalin was, where they thought that they get their orders from like Russia and other people. They're globalists, and they think that we're all one big society, one big open society like George Soros wants to believe and things. Meanwhile, you have those called the alt-right. And the alt-right has nothing to do with Republicans, have nothing to do with Trump. The alt-right has to do with Jason Kessler, people like him, and some other guys who are in that alt-right movement. And they're the guys who are many times doing these shootings, as well as the leftists are doing shootings, but they believe in domestic fascism, which they believe in the country becoming a fascist country and people losing their rights. They also want socialism too. So when you saw that riot that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, that was a riot between two left-wing groups. Did you hear me? It was between two leftist groups, two so-called quasi-democrat groups, in fact. You had the socialist progressive with Black Lives Matter, and you had the alt-right, which was also a socialist group. It had nothing to do with Republicans. And that girl who died, I think her name was Helen something, she died due to the fact that Jason Kessler, who was a Democrat, an Obama supporter, he supported Obama. He was a part of Occupy Wall Street, just like the Colorado shooter was a part of Occupy Wall Street, who shot those people in a movie theater, in the Batman movie theater, where they had the Batman movie, the guy with the crazy red hair, he was actually a Democrat in Occupy Wall Street, just like Jason Kessler was. But after Hillary Clinton lost and Jason Kessler supported Hillary Clinton, do you actually think a Trump supporter would support Hillary Clinton? No, of course not. Jason Kessler, he became a white supremacist overnight and manufactured himself and remade himself after Hillary Clinton lost into a white supremacist and created this rally down in Charlottesville, Charlottesville, Virginia, so that they can impugn Trump with something that he had nothing to do with. So you leftists literally use your own people as collateral damage. That's right. When you serve the Democrat Party, many times, if you don't do lockstep with what they want you to do, you'll be collateral damage. There's nothing that will go between their nexus of the rich and powerful socialist billionaires and their control over America. Just like Seth Rich, the guy who actually leaked Hillary Clinton's emails and Podesta's emails and stuff because he was upset that Bernie Sanders was mistreated during the election, how they basically rigged the election. So what he did, he leaked all the emails of Hillary Clinton and Podesta, even the ones where Debbie Wasserman Schultz exposed, said that the Latinos or Mexicans were the Taco Bowl party, the Taco Bell party. She actually called Latino people the Taco Party. The taco vote. No, they call them the taco voters. Literally, that's how much disdain they have. Uh, you know, yes, right. Someone said, "Don't cross crooked Hillary, death awaits." Exactly. That's what they think. Taco Bowl. Yep, they call it the Taco Bowl engagement. Thank you so much. Someone corrected me there. But that's exactly what they did. They did this because they really don't think Latinos have any value except as a stepping stone to their power. And you've got to realize this, America. This is your BLEXIT. There are people of different groups, and they were divided. The Democrat Party used them, and even the homosexual community, and different parts of the Christian community. They would bring division. They would try to be the lords over each of the groups that they divided. And that's how they control all of America, by creating these little idiosyncratic groups, these little cultural groups, like say the blacks, and then you got the Latino groups, and then you got the Asian groups, and you've got all kind of the Polish groups, and then they want to be the lords or the slave owners of each of those groups. You've got people like Martin Luther King. You have people like Malcolm X and other black leaders who were assassinated by the very same liberals who want the vote of black people today. But after they killed our black leaders, because they were Republicans, they began to put their socialist leaders in place of them. And they basically hijacked the civil rights movement. Bernie Sanders was one of them. He's been in Russia over 50, 60 some times. And if anyone should be talking about Russia collusion, being that his campaign manager was straight from Russia, the media should be talking about Bernie Sanders' campaign. But they don't do that because Bernie Sanders is a socialist progressive, and they can't do that, of course, because their whole game would be exposed. Okay, so you all have to realize that our media right now is in turmoil, and our media people, the media elites and the legacy media of MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, and CBS, as well as the New York Times, Washington Post, they are basically an extension of Russian propaganda and Russian ideas into our country. And basically, they're pushing globalist international fascist ideology down our throats, in agendas, in interest in our throats. It's not about what's going to make America great. It's about what makes these other countries great and these rich bankers great, these socialist bankers great. It's not about making individual countries better and becoming more independent and free. It's about creating them into a state. Okay, so if America becomes just a state, then what's the country? Have you ever asked yourself? It's like people talk about, okay, the state of I don't know, let's say Syria, the state of let's say Iran, the state. Notice how you see in the media they talk about the state. We have to really listen to language, because you'll see something. You'll get a picture of what's really going on. These socialists want open borders because they see nations as a state, each nation a state. But then you ask, what is a country? Because a country will have states in it. Now, we're the United States of what? America. Our country is based on the freedom and the Constitution. So we're United States of America, but now you have all these nations. Communists are basically trading countries like baseball cards and making them into states of a bigger whole. So who's the main ringleader? It's basically no different than what the USSR was, which was it was the United Soviet Socialist Soviet um, Republic, I believe it was called back in the day. That's when I was a kid, and we had all these people like um, Mikhail Gorbachev and other leaders that were up there. We used to be called the USSR. But you realize this, that the world is not enough. You know, USSR wasn't enough. They have to turn each of these countries into states of statism, where all power is centralized. Because you know why Russia likes that? It's because it's easy to control nations that are just like them. That's why we don't want to be like Russia. That's why we shouldn't want to do what Obama did, was say, well, after my second election, I will be more flexible for you, Vladimir Putin. And then Medvedev said, okay, I'll transmit this thing to Vladimir Putin. Okay, yes, thank you. I got my helper here. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. That's exactly right. Thank you for that. I needed that clarification. The Union of Socialist Soviet Republics. So what's happening is the left is literally turning us into like a Soviet country. That's what's really happening. And we need to be aware of this, be aware of it. There's a book called The Enemies from Within. Look it up. There's a guy who wrote this book, and I'm trying to think of the guy's name, but he's brilliant. He talks about how many of the people that are on the left are basically the useful idiots of communists. Various cadre taught them to think a certain way, and then they're teaching other younger people to think a certain way. But basically, they're nothing but pawns for Russia's agenda into America. They're more interested in making Russia great again. The left, the Democrat Party, is more interested in making Russia and their interests great again. Think of green energy. Who benefits from green energy? Perhaps the socialist billionaires who have power, wind power things. But who makes the most money out of oil? Russia does. Most of your billionaires and millionaires are in Russia right now, in the Soviet Union. Well, in the Soviet Union, but I'm saying Russia itself. Where are they congregated at? They're in Moscow. You've got more millionaires and billionaires in Moscow, Russia, right now than any place in the world. And Russia makes millions and billions of dollars on gas. So when the gas prices go up, Russia profits from it. So when there's conflicts that happen in the Middle East, because of course Russia, what they want to do is they want to control all the Middle East oil for themselves. Can you imagine what would happen if they controlled, let's say, Saudi Arabia? They got Syria, they got all these. You Arab countries need to realize that Russia, ultimately, they want to control all of your oil. But y'all don't realize it. You just don't realize it. And y'all are allowing these people to incite wars and violence and scandals and all that kind of stuff, so that ultimately Russia can control the prices, and then we have higher prices in our country. And here Trump is trying to solve things by us getting our own oil, because we can increase our own supply. Do you realize we have more oil in America than Russia does and Saudi Arabia does? And we can tap in our own oil. Yeah, we're trying to bring in hybrid cars here and there and everything, but ultimately, the key is that we want to be energy independent. That's what Republicans talk about, not dependency, but independent, being independent from foreign sources and stuff. In fact, when Bush, when he decided to say, yeah, we want to be free from Saudi Arabia energy, and we want to be more energy independent, what happened about 6 months later? We were struck on 9/11 at the towers. That's exactly right. I remember this. Oh, the enemy. Yes, thank you. The Enemy Within, Saving America from Liberal Assault of Our Churches, Schools, and Military by Michael Savage. Yes, he did. Michael Savage did the book, but there's another guy. He's from New Zealand. If you remember that guy from New Zealand, my helper, who's ever out there, the guy, Loudon. Last name is Loudon. I just remembered it. Henry Loudon or something like that, but Loudon. Let's see, Loudon. Loud. I think it's En. Okay, that's his. He's got the book called Enemies Within. So I think Michael Savage had a book, and also a guy named Loudon had a book like that. And so he used to go in a lot of Tea Party circuits and stuff, talking about that. And just check him out. Yeah, it's really cool. Check him out. He talks about this. He actually names names, and he has so much detail in the connections that each of these people, like Nancy Pelosi, and all of your Democrat senators and stuff, even who are in power today. I mean, he talks about Tom Perez and how he's a communist. I mean, look at Tom Perez. Let's talk about him, for example. You got Tom Perez. This is why we need a BLEXIT, folks. It's because the leader of the Democrat Party right now is a communist. You can't be any more clear than that. We have to open up our eyes wide and see for ourselves that after John F. Kennedy was assassinated, the same ideology that killed and assassinated John F. Kennedy is now controlling the Democrat Party. You realize that? Yeah, John F. Kennedy acted like a Republican a lot, but you realize that the same ideology that assassinated him, and Lee Harvey Oswald, who was a communist who defected to Russia, that same ideology now is in charge of the Democrat Party. That's why just about every Democrat is running today is a socialist. And this is why Americans have to unite against the Democrat Party, because they're not interested in what's good for America. They're only interested in power. They will have 100 shootings in schools if it means that they can push gun control down our throats. They will have people addicted to every form of drug, just as long as they can have enough stupid voters who are so tuned out and so entertainment addicted that they won't even have a clue how they're could be manipulated by the Democrat Party. Republicans, we want thinking people, because a thinking people, an educated populace, is a free people. Free. Okay. Okay. I don't know this. Randall C. Taylor talks about legal immigration. Okay. Yeah, there's a guy who was talks about legal immigration. Legal immigration is their way of bringing power. I mean, right now, Democrats right now are trying to allow felons to vote. They're putting voting machines right in prison cells. People who are already, you see the pattern? People who are already dependent on government because they're in jail. They're in their own plantations. A prison cell is nothing but like a modern day plantation, but for criminals. All right. But you see how the Democrat Party wants to, yeah, we want them to vote because we give them their food, bread, and water and circuses, their entertainment, and they're going to vote for us because we take care of them. You know, that's how the Democrats think. Who can we control? Who can we manipulate? Who can we make dependent on us? And then we can get enough of them to vote for us so we can stay in power for eternity. You know, and then they'll do the same thing for those who come over here illegally. And they don't care how many Americans die from being killed or shot by these MS-13 gangs. To them, we're nothing more than collateral damage. Is that the kind of party you want to vote for? Is that the kind of party you want to reward with your hard-earned vote? No, it's not. And that's why there's not only a Brexit, but there's an America exit, and from every single race out of the Democrat Party, especially as it's become socialist and it's become something totally different than even ever used to be in our own eyes. It's become so radical. So let the Brexit revolution begin, because after all, it's African Americans who are propping up this dilapidated party. It's African Americans who are being used, just like we were used during the days of slavery. It is time for the Brexit to begin. And I encourage every young person to go to Blexit.com. That's BLEXIT.com. And then you just begin to free your mind. Free your mind to know what the issues are. And let's not be entertainment addicted voter or a person who's led astray by these politicians and things, but let's be informed. Citizens United. I got rid of my cable for a period of time. In fact, I've not had cable in about 8 months, but I'm more informed than I ever have been before because I see the issues. I'm listening to issues. I'm not listening to the celebrities and the hype and the MSNBC drivel. I'm listening. I'm looking at solutions. And you know what? I'm thinking clearer than ever before. I'm not addicted to any kind of drug. No weed, no nothing. My mind is free. I'm not letting a plant control me, whether it be tobacco or anything. And I encourage you all to be drug free. Young people, let your generation become a renaissance of being a drug free nation, a clear thinking nation, because you have to be the ones that replace the generations that were misled, led astray, bamboozled into thinking like the mob. We're not a mob, we're individuals, and we're a nation of law and order. And so I thank you all for listening today. Vote Republican. I repeat, this is your wake-up call. Vote Republican this year and in the near foreseeable future, unless the Democrat Party ever changes. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. So until then, vote Republican and make sure conservatives win these seats. And in my area, I'm calling for, in Illinois, Republicans. Vote Republican, folks. Vote for your freedom. Vote Bennett. There's a guy named Bennett. He's running in our area. Vote for him. Vote for Hungren, Randy Hungren. Vote for those people. Vote for Roscom. He's running for U.S. representatives. You know, vote Republican. There's a guy named He's a guy named Lee. He's a state rep, or he's going to vote for the state senate. Vote for Lee. Anyways, vote Republican nationwide, and we will have a nation of freedom, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you, and God bless America.